Hi, welcome to Ranger Garage. I'm glad you found our channel. On this channel, you're going to learn a lot about vehicle maintenance. We're going to show the everyday person how to work on classic vehicles, modern day vehicles, things that you can do yourself instead of paying hundreds and or thousands of dollars to mechanics and other shops. We'll teach you some customization, some modernization stuff. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please subscribe, please give us a thumbs up. And if you have any questions about the work that we've done, maybe it wasn't clear, feel free to email us at rangergarage@gmail.com. Hope you enjoy. Hi, welcome back to Ranger Garage. On this episode, we're going to basically fix a problem that I created when we first started the reconstruction of this project. It has to do with the electrical. The amount of knowledge I've learned about electrical wiring over the past few years has grown exponentially. So this is basically correcting a problem. For those of you who may have run into this issue before, I created a push button start with a kill switch because the traditional push button systems that you can buy over, online and over the counter, they're really not top quality. They have a tendency to burn out. Mine did. Mine caught on fire. So what I ended up doing was hardwiring my own switch and push button start to try to avoid some of those problems. It was more resilient, but it was heating up and was causing some melting of wires behind the panels. Fortunately, I caught it in plenty of time, but I'm kind of under the gun to get this thing ready for presentation tomorrow. So bottom line is, what I found out is I ended up taking this to an electrical expert, and they showed me one of the errors in my ways. I had this hardwired in, coming off the main voltage, splitting out to all the accessories, the very same way that they had me do it with the push button start system. No relays, no additional switches, which is probably why that system burned up. What they ended up telling me when I took it in was the problem is there's too much voltage going through there that you need to make sure you have a relay for each one of those lines coming out, as well as switches, or at least enough to split out the load. So what we've decided to do today is add 2 more switches. So there'll be 3 toggle switches gaining power to the system, activate things like fuel pump, other accessories to get things started, a relay between each one of those lines to absorb some of that power to eliminate the problem. So that's what we're going to do today. It may be a little overkill with the switches and the relays, but I really am sick and tired of chasing this. So here's the wiring mess that I have created. Please forgive the crudeness of this, but it was when I was first learning. You could tell by the different color wires and so on and so forth. Trying to do this on the fly, a really bad call. If I had to do it all over again, I'd gut the system, and I still may in the future, but I really don't have time to do that right now. So here's what we've got, is we've got our constant power, okay, coming in, right? It's our constant power, the red one here. Normally those are yellow, and I think if you trace this back far enough, it is yellow. And this feeds my existing toggle switch, which activates the system and starts the vehicle. As you see, it works just fine. Problem is this wire, okay, which is the output wire coming out of this switch, which then feeds the push button start right here. It feeds things like the fuel pump and everything else you need to get this system up and running so the car will turn over and start. This wire right here, right up here, was getting very, very hot. And I ended up replacing the switch out. This was the old switch. The connector on the back, this type of connector here, not this one, but this type of connector, had basically turned yellow and burning, and the wiring up around here was brown, and it was pretty nasty. Of course, the wire was still, it was this thick gauge of wire, but that was the problem. So it turns out that the issue is not the switch. The issue is the number of switches. So we've got our work cut out for us today. Here's what we're going to do. Went to my good friends at O'Reilly's, and I got some extra wire. This time I tried to get the right colors. I got 2 additional switches, mainly because that's all they had left. And I got 3 relays. Now you may be asking, why 3 relays and 2 switches? Because I already have 1 switch. So I will be hooking up 3 switches and 3 relays. I have 4 outputs, but one is simply the push button start. that doesn't use constant power. It's a one-time source. So I'm going to split that off of another one. And hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt. So what I'm going to end up doing is I am going to basically disconnect this switch here. I'm going to go to the main power here, and I'm going to feed each one of these switches, okay, and each one of these relays, and we will take it from there. So I will show you what I'm doing, and wish me luck. Here we go. And the negative is disconnected. Now that we got the power off, we're going to cut these lines. Okay, we're going to cut these lines. I'm going to cut them all the way back to the original 3, or in this case 4 if you want to count the starter switch. And I'm going to wire those up to these. Okay, then once I've got those set, then I will bring in the permanent power, which is the red one here. And I've actually found that where it goes back to the yellow. I'm going to turn that back into yellow because starter is red. So I'm going to pull that back and get that squared away. And I'll show you what I do after I get this set up. Okay, so I have now cut loose these wires that I was showing you up under here. And I didn't show you the cutting off part, but these all connected in. You know, this went to the yellow, and this went to the yellow, and then these all connected into this harness here. This fed power to all the accessories, fuel pump, that kind of stuff. So this is not a power. This is actually coming right off the toggle switch that I have up here, which we're going to deal with in a minute. But this is the target right here. These 3, blue, white, and yellow. Now these are changed colors. The original factory colors are like green and black, yellow and black, and I can't remember what the other color was, but these are extensions that I had to add in when I ran in my original system that I ended up having to replace, that over-the-counter push-button start. Same sight gauge, same everything. So here's what I'm going to do. First thing is I'm going to strip off a little bit of the wire. Twist these together, just the end pieces. Okay. So I've got these crimpers here. I actually may have to go back to the store and get some more. We'll find out. So start with the blue one here. And going to insert this bad boy. There we go. Because what I'm going for is a good solid non-loose connection. Okay, make sure you keep a pressure on the back side. Cramp down. And that gives you a good solid connection. So what we do then is we make the connection to this pin here. We connect it to 87. No, I'll be fair. Let me check on that. Yeah, 87. So take this first one here, and on the bottom you'll see the numbers 87, 30, 85, and 86. So we're going to go with 87. We're going to line this bad boy up and pop it right in. Now we have a solid connection. Now this is the connection to the accessories. This does not power it yet. We got to run power to it, and we got to run the switch to it, and so on and so forth. But this is the smartest way to keep us from getting confused. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. So now we're going to do the next one. We're going to do the brown one here. Another one of the accessories. I think I got this one a little bit better. And as you see, this is not a hard process. It's just methodical. You got to make sure you put the right connections in the right ports and so on and so forth. It's just, it's just, and it's daunting for a lot of people. I have to admit, it was daunting for me the first time I did it. But as you know, I did it wrong the first time. But now we've got it right. All right. And that's the second connection. So, got my second relay. Okay, they're all the same. All right, so this one will go in the same position, same pin on the next relay. Make sure you got a good connection. There we go, they look the same. They're both going into the 87, which is power flow out. Once the switch is triggered, it will then send power from 30 to 87, and that should power the accessories. And now the last one. I'll remind you again, even though you saw me do it, do not do this with the battery still plugged up. That would be bad. Okay. Now, the first time I did this, I soldered them to the terminals, because I always heard soldering was a much better and tighter connection, which is true. But the thing you always have to remember is what's the purpose and the intent for what it's being used for. And in this case, you want to use these. All right, so we're looking for 87. There we go. Make sure it's all fitted in, or tight in. So the next thing we've got to do is, now that we have the connection going out, we have to make sure we establish, and this is stuff that can all be done here with before we put in the switches, is we need to have power coming into one of these, one terminal, and power coming out to the other terminal. And that's 85 and 86. Most people say it doesn't really matter which one you do, because it's not, it doesn't, it's just creating a magnetic connection. But we're going to do it consistently throughout, and I'll tell you which one we're doing as we go through it. And then the last one is 30, and this 30 pin goes to these switches. Okay, so the output on here where it says load on here will be going to the 30 on here. So when this is triggered on, it then activates that magnetic field, which then connects 30 and 87, and power goes out. It just swings kind of a gate, and then power shoots out and activates the system. And you'll see us do this through each step. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up in here and find the power source and find a good grounding source. And when I've got that, I'll show you, and we'll make those connections. Those connections, however, will probably be soldered.